I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, in 1948, and then when Indonesia gained its independence, just before that, right after World War II, from the Netherlands, and so we ended up here in January 9 of 1960 in Grand Rapids.
So welcome to another episode of Drive Forward, Building Success with FOBI. This is a podcast where we invite family business leaders from the community to share their experiences with us from the very beginning when they started the business or when they either founded it or started working at the business. I'm Ana Gonzalez. I'm the director of the Family Owned Business Institute and your host today. Thank you very much to our guest today. This is Goei. He is the CEO of Eastern Floral and the founder of the Goei Center, which I'm looking forward to talk about.
Sure.
Eastern Floral is, I believe, is one of the largest floral businesses here in Michigan. And you, I believe, are not currently the one running it. You're more the CEO.
Yes.
Right now it's your daughter who's taken over.
Yeah.
So it's a second generation family business. Thank you very much for being here.
It's truly an honor to be here, Ana, and thank you for the invitation to share my story with you and with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So before diving into Eastern Floral, you're an immigrant like I am.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So please tell me what brought you to GR?
So it's I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, in 1948, and then when Indonesia gained its independence, just before that, right after World War II, from the Netherlands, its first president was Sukarno, and he was elected, and he led initially with some democratic principles and values, but then he became more influenced by the communist philosophy of governing. And so my father, who was an educator, was being told what to teach. And he felt that that was really dangerous for the future of his children. So he and my mother decided that it's time for them to flee the country. And at that time, they were allowing people to leave the country. So literally, you leave everything behind, the proverbial suitcase, you pack and go. The problem with that, of course, is that my mom was 6 months pregnant and already had 6 children, so 6 boys in tow, and we fled the country like literally overnight. We ended up in the Netherlands because the Indonesia was a Dutch colony, and that was a destination for many of the Indonesian political refugees to go there. And while we were there, my father was offered a position to be an educator in their school system, which he accepted. And then for 5.5 years, we lived in the Netherlands. And then we were sponsored when President Eisenhower and Queen Juliana agreed on a immigration program for Indonesian political refugees. We were allowed to come to the United States if we had a sponsor. And my oldest brother at that time, was a student at Calvin College on Franklin and Fuller many, many years ago. And attended Fuller Avenue Christian Reformed Church, and they offered to sponsor our whole family. And so we ended up here in January 9 of 1960 in Grand Rapids. So I've lived ever since then in this
So
city.
it was through your brother's connection with Calvin, that's why you ended up in Grand Rapids?
There's a real long story. I don't know how long you've got, but there's a real long story of how, in between all those events, that has brought us here, but this is the short version of that.
I get it, yeah. So how old were you?
I was almost 12.
Okay.
I arrived in January, as an 11-year-old, and my birthday was in May for a 12-year-old.
So did you speak English? Because did you learn Dutch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, right? So English is my third language, so I know this like crazy, right? And But what was easy, the transition was easy because Grand Rapids was a very much Dutch community.
Right.
And so at my first school I attended in 6th grade was Baxter Christian School. Integrating into the culture required you to be proficient in the language that you have.
Yeah, and I do notice because you don't have any accent really.
Yeah.
Or still I don't notice it. I have a very strong accent.
Yeah.
So anyway, so can you share us a little bit on the business Eastern Floral? How did that come up? So what happened to you between, I guess, 12 to when you started with Eastern Floral?
So I'm a person of faith, and I believe that God has many that allows me to do certain things and prepares me to do certain things. So the interesting thing is that when we arrived in Grand Rapids under the sponsorship of Fuller Avenue Christian Reformed Church, they have a church office called deacons, and deacons are those who are the helping hands for people who are in need. Mm-hmm. And one of those deacons who helped settle our family into Grand Rapids was Frank DeVos. Oh. And Frank DeVos is the founder and owner of Eastern Floral.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So because of at that time the policies were, and it may even be today. My father's credentials as an educator and holder of several degrees was not acknowledged in the United States. So he couldn't teach, he couldn't do anything. So the first job he was able to get was a position as a janitor at a local wholesale floral company that Frank DeVos worked with as the owner of Eastern Floral at that time. Mm-hmm. So that's how I was introduced into the floral industry, because I worked my way through high school and college in that business, and then years later I bought that business out. Right. And so I started in the wholesale floral business, and so that's my entry into the floral industry through Frank DeVos, through Fuller Avenue Christian Reformed. It's kind of this whole like a full circle type of thing, right? He helped us he helped settle us in Grand Rapids in the United States. He helped introduce us to the floral industry, and now our family owns Eastern Floral, which he started in 1950.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, isn't it?
Wow. So you went to college, what did you study there?
Well, I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
I was going to follow in the footsteps of my dad, but I'm not proud to say this, I'm somewhat embarrassed, but I got bored with college, and I decided that I really want to go into business, and so that's why I dropped out of college after my third year and started in my own business career at that time.
Oh, I get it. If I understood you correctly, you sold that business, so when did you make the decision on why to buy
retail?
Yeah, go to retail and Eastern Floral. Yeah. What happened there?
Well, I began to recognize that when I sold the business to accept this position as the director for the Ministry and Racial Reconciliation, after I left that position, I began to realize that the world has changed, and that what used to be an important cog in the supply chain for flower shops has now diminished in its value and its strength, because all of a sudden, what happened was in California, where a lot of flowers are grown, and we bought a lot of flowers from California and wholesale through there, is that the farmers there began to realize they could make a lot more money selling their land to developers than they could ever make growing flowers.
Right.
So all of a sudden, they took that money and then they reinvested it and they found that they could grow flowers at a lesser cost in other countries. Mm-hmm. So they took their technology, their knowledge of growing, and brought it to countries where the weather was correct, where the humidity was correct, where the transportation was available, and of course in those countries the labor was less expensive.
Right.
And they didn't have to have greenhouses that they had to heat when it's cold.
Absolutely.
Because it's always temperature is consistent.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden the market for flowers was expanded because there was now so many more farms growing flowers. Okay. So what happened was
all year long.
Yes, all year long now.
Right.
And so all of a sudden these farms that are now outside of the United States needed a market to go to. Well, the wholesalers at that time were already committed to certain growers, and so these new growers are saying, well, then I guess we can't use the wholesalers, so we'll sell direct. So all of a sudden you get all these companies coming, when we see it today, right? We see today companies who just call or text or send an email to this address, and we'll send you a bouquet of flowers, and it'll come in a box, and it'll come to your house.
Yeah, no more intermediate. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
bypassed the wholesaler, and now they're also
more
bypassing the
intermediaries
retailer.
there. Right.
So things change. I mean, as we all know, right? The
Yeah.
economies always change.
Industries evolve, and yeah.
That's right. And so I decided not to go back in wholesale.
Mhm.
So I decided that, retail is the best way for me to continue my career in the floral industry, because I still had my connections to the growers
Mhm.
as a wholesaler, but now I can bring those flowers directly to Eastern
retail.
Floral.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the shift
Right.
for me, because again, when we see it today, right? You see this in your in the family-owned businesses, because look at what's happening to the small business economy, right? You don't see small pharmacists anymore. You don't see small hardware stores anymore. You don't see those kinds of neighborhood markets like we used to see,
Yeah.
right? Everything is becoming big,
Mhm.
right? And so that's the shift. And I think that I think it's a shift that probably has some value, but I also think that we lost some of that neighborhood feel.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think the personal connections we've lost because of that. And so now we're all running to these big box stores, and we're all running, and we just get a card
We're
and we
doing
go
this
quickly.
and click.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
we
let's get out of there,
delivered,
right?
Yeah.
In neighborhood
We get
stores
things delivered. Yeah.
in the 50s, 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
80s, we talk to each other while we're grocery shopping.
Yeah, we miss them, don't we?
Yeah, so, but again, we can live in the past, or we can say, what can we do to even adjust to what is currently the situation?
So it's very interesting. So you notice that the industry value chain had a link, the wholesale link, that was kind of weakening.
Yeah.
Right, given all these changes
Sure.
and the fact that flower growing was happening abroad, right? So that she brought you to this opportunity of, okay, we gotta go retail. So you bought.
I bought
Mr.
my
Toka, what
my
happened?
first flower shop was called Plainfield Floral. And then
So when was this? Sorry.
1997, I think
Okay.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, I owned it for about 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then all of a sudden Eastern Floral came up for sale. But there's another side story to that, backstory to Eastern Floral.
Bring it on.
Okay, Eastern Floral was owned and operated by the Frank DeBoss family. His children did not want to take control of it. So he decided to sell it. He sold it to a national company. If you remember, in the 1990s, there was a lot of roll-ups going on. Small businesses were being bought up and all that kind of stuff. So there was a group of executives who sold Blockbusters and took their shares, the value, and then they began to invest in other businesses. One of those group of executives decided to invest in the floral industry. And because they felt like it was a sleeping giant. Even though we're mom and pop operations, it was a multi-billion dollar industry overall.
Yeah.
So they bought 400 and so many different retail flower shop locations, including Eastern Floral. And in 1998 is when they bought them. And then in 2001 they went bankrupt. So they filed bankruptcy in 2001, and then I decided on a whim, which is like crazy, right? I'm a 4-person operation. I'm going to buy Eastern Floral, and there was 6 other flower shops included in the purchase, because they had a West Michigan division. And but I thought, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and fortunately I was a successful bidder for the bankruptcy auction, and so Eastern Floral became part of that. And I know,
Wow.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know. I know. People always say, what are you thinking? I mean, in fact,
You're like a maverick, yeah.
well, it's like I was also the winner of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award for West Michigan.
So when did it start to become a family business? Your family. So you haven't spoken about them. So tell us a little bit about
So
them.
the family business started right from the beginning,
Yeah.
right? I had a son that went into it. I had a daughter, and her husband bought a small stake in it. I offered it to them, and I have another daughter, and her husband bought a small stake into it, and my son bought a small stake into it. So they, between the three of them, I think they own like 7.5 or 2.5%.
So you have 3 kids? A son?
We have 5 kids.
Oh,
But
okay.
3 of them became part
3
of
of them,
that. Yeah.
okay. Mhm.
So, and then both my son and my son-in-law worked at Eastern Floral. My son-in-law worked at Eastern Floral for about 10 years. And then he and my daughter, his wife, who live in Holland, asked if they could buy the Holland Grand Haven stores because they live in Holland and Grand Haven. So I was at that time ready to kind of start divesting my own presence in the business.
In the business, yeah.
And so they bought the Holland Grand Haven location. It's now called Seidman Floral, which is their last name.
Wow.
They're in Grand Haven and in Holland. And then my daughter, who's currently, Rachel's our president currently, she and her husband, who's an attorney, traveled around. Their first job was in London, so they spent several years there, and then they came back to Chicago, spent some years there, and then they went. He was offered a position as a corporate counsel in Milwaukee with GE, and they spent time there, and then they came back to Grand Rapids about 45 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years, and then now he works for a company, Whirlpool in South Bend, or not South Bend, in Bend Harbor, St. Joe, and then she said, I'd like to work in business. But she was prepared for it. She has a master's degree in accounting. She went in London. She worked for a flower shop there, and so she's got so she got all that stuff. I kind of wanted to talk her out of it because I know how hard it is, right? And she was the mom of 4 kids and busy kids, right?
Yeah.
But she said, no, this is what I want to do, and I will work my way around, make sure that my family is okay, and is well taken care of. So she began this 3-year journey to just learn more and more about the business and the running of the business, everyday operations of the business, and so now we're closer now of where she would assume full ownership of the business.
Okay.
So it will probably within. Maybe by the end of this year or by next mid-year, we'll have all those things finalized. But I'm also a believer that once they made the decision, like once my oldest daughter and her husband decided to buy Holland Grand Haven, I'm saying, it's yours. I'm not here, it's yours. You want me to be there?
So you have nothing to do with that one?
Nothing in the sense that I'm here if you want some input, but other than that, it's yours. I'm not micromanaging. You need to do what you need to do based on what you think is right for the business. And I did the same thing with Rachel. I just said, look, if you're going to do this, I'm going to back off. I'll be here. I still have my office here. If you need me, and then she kind of put her own team together, and she's got a good, strong team who have more experience than her in the floral industry. So that's helpful. These are the kinds of things that I always believe that leaders need to build the next leaders. And you don't build the next leaders by telling them what to do.
Right.
So you gotta, you have to let them grow. And I've always believed that failure is not failure. Failure is just the stepping stones to success. That's all they are. And so, so it's okay if you fail, and that's fine, but make sure you learn from it and move on, right? Don't dwell on your failures, just keep moving forward and adjust and pivot and to allow you to become successful. Some demographics of peoples do not be able to access those resources.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing. And I think the family business structure, even though it's difficult and it's not always successful, it is one of those structures that I think we can learn from. Because I want my children to be successful, so I'm not going to stand in their way, right? For artificial reasons. And if we can start thinking that way and recognizing that we are all family, and we all want the best for whoever you are, and begin to think about what policies do we make that's going to be successful for them, not me.
Right.
We can start thinking that way.
Because they are different and they will fail, but we want to raise them or have them succeed or, lift themselves from wherever they were and, keep growing. Right?
Failure is just stepping stones to success.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, don't worry about failures.
Yeah.
And so I'm passionate about that because I think it's the way that we can, create a better future for our future generations. Because we can't continue on the way we've been talking. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So many lessons from family businesses and from your work from inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion from this conversation being amazing. So I'm going to ask you a question that I'm asking all my guests here. So if I ask you in 3 words what makes the family business community special here in this region, which words would you choose?
I thought about that question. Because there's so many words that I think
I'm sure.
be.
I'm asking you just 3. Come
So
on.
I'm going to go with strength.
Strength.
Family businesses, creates the strength to allow for our economy to continue to move forward. Passion. Family businesses, they're passionate about their work, and it's not always about dollars. It's about community and caring. Family businesses are businesses that cares about the community and are very philanthropic in their own size. I mean, hardly any of us can be the philanthropic families that we have in our community, and we appreciate all that they do. But in our own way, we can be philanthropic, we can give as well. And I think that's that family business cares about the community.
Right.
So strength, passion, and caring is the 3 words that I thought would identify the
family business community.
family business community.
I love them. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Bing, for your time. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and for all these lessons. This is our episode today. Thank you.